Okay, can everyone see there? Right, I'm Paul Evans, webmaster, photographer, general sort of camera buff, for those who don't know me. You're starting to feel the autumn chill now. Certainly, I was out this morning and it's most definitely autumn now, which is good in a way because it starts getting dark much earlier and there's plenty more to see in the sky now. First of all, the sun. This is back from a couple of weeks ago. This is from Peter Pace, who's in the middle of the second row just here. And that's images of the last two sunspots to grace us with their presence. That's active regions 1026 and 1027, now both completely faded away, and there is now nothing on the sun. This is how the sun looks as of yesterday, actually, and it's still the same today. No sunspots now for 78% of all the days this year. That compares with 73% last year, so it could be that we're still going further into this amazingly deep solar minimum with very little on the sun. But the fact that the sun has no sunspots on doesn't mean there's nothing happening on the sun, because here's another of Peter's images that was taken through his hydrogen alpha telescope on Sunday, and you can see there those enormous flames, and this has got the thing that I always like to bring it to scale, picture of the Earth to scale, to give you some idea. So these flames are sort of probably 15,000 miles high. Another picture I was sent, and I have to say that it is so good, that even this screen doesn't really do it justice, but this was taken by another of our members, Adam Jeffers, who's up the back somewhere, I think. And this is a mosaic of the moon that Adam took earlier this year, and it consists of 42 different frames. The other opportunity you will get to see this is that Philip mentioned the opening of the Ulster Museum. So there's an exhibition there, and there's a full-size print of this moon mosaic there. Just a look at the night sky, and this is the north view. As you see, I think mine is slightly different from the way that Andy normally does it, in that the curved area is the horizon. For mine, this represents looking straight up here. So you look straight up, we've got Cassiopeia, Cepheus, Hercules. We'll come back to Hercules in just a minute. That's quite important. And the Big Dipper is sort of fairly low in the sky. This is kind of set up for the middle of October at 10 o'clock at night. This southern view. Again, looking straight up, we have the summer triangle still. The summer triangle is still very prominent in the evenings here. And again, I'll draw your attention to a couple of bits of that. In the middle of that there, Vulpecula, a sort of a constellation really of no great bright stars or anything, but it's sort of dead center of the summer triangle kind of area. And also Lyra the Harp, which is marked out by the bright star there, Vega. And I just want to bring your attention down to these two little stars here below Vega. And we'll see why in just a moment. Here's one of Andy McCrea's photos taken very recently, and that is M27, or Messier number 27, the Dumbbell Nebula. And that is right in the middle of the constellation of Vulpecula. If you're sort of looking above Sagittarius the Arrow into the sort of the area of not very many stars that is Vulpecula, that is right in the middle of it. But you'll need star charts to find that easily. But through a telescope, as you can see, it looks absolutely magnificent. You can see a lot of that shape with the eye, but not the colour. Unfortunately, you don't get the colour. You get a lot of the shape. But the sort of the blues and the greens and the reds don't come out except on films. One more of Andy's to look at, and this is. Well, I sort of mentioned the constellation Lyra and the two stars beneath the bright star Vega. In between those is Messier 57, and this is it's a planetary nebula. That is to say, there's a star in the middle of it there that has shed a lot of its outer mass, and it's now glowing by illumination from the star. And you get again colours. Sometimes I find that they come out sort of more blue or more green in the middle and sort of red around the outside. That's Messier 57. Here's one of my own sort of wide field shots, and this is in the summer triangle. This is the upper left star Deneb here, and just to 2 degrees or so to the east of Deneb, that there is the North American Nebula. And I think if you look at the shape of it, you can see why it's called the North American Nebula. you've sort of got the Florida bit over here and Mexico down here and sort of Canada up the top there. Very great likeness. No real reason for that, of course, just a coincidence, but that's what it is. And again, it's one of those things that I've only ever seen as a bit of a glow in a telescope, and it's when you get a camera on it, particularly one that's got good red sensitivity, that you can see that. And Hercules, I was saying about Hercules, this is the great feature of Hercules, probably the best of the northern hemisphere globular clusters. That's Messier number 13, and it's just about a naked eye object. Some people say they can see it with a naked eye, particularly with averted vision where you don't look straight at it. I've always needed binoculars, but it sort of looks like a sort of fuzzy blob in binoculars and a bit more in a bigger telescope. And you need to get up to sort of a 10-inch telescope or so to see that kind of look about it. And that's actually taken, I took that one myself last year, around about this time last year, through an 8-inch telescope. And this, I'll come to another star map and I'll bring this out. This actually is the sort of the eastern sky as of 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And there's a reason for this that I'll explain. You see, you've got sort of overhead, you've got Auriga, you've got Orion down in the south. Means that winter's on its way now, but you can see Orion very prominent in the southern sky in the morning. But the interesting bit goes on over here. And in the eastern sky, we now have 3 planets rising shortly before the sun. We also have, in Gemini up here, we have Mars. And I'll show you some photographs here. This was taken from my house in Larne on Sunday morning. And Venus is shining away up there, but very low down, Mercury. And I managed to get the 2 of them just there, but it gets more interesting than that because, I'll just mention, while we're on Mercury, there's some great pictures coming back from the Mercury Messenger probe, and this is a nice smiley, happy face that they seem to have found on Mercury there. But there'll be lots more from that coming in coming years as it sort of goes past and back again a few times until it establishes an orbit, and we'll get great pictures of Mercury from that probe. This was this morning. This was 6 o'clock this morning. I got up early this morning seeing that the sky was clear. And now you see we have Venus and we have Mercury down the bottom, and Mercury is joined by Saturn. And I did manage to get a telescope on Saturn, and you can see its rings, but they're still very, very thin. The inclination of Saturn's rings is still pretty flat. While we're on the subject of Saturn, this is hot off the press news. Saturn has more rings than we thought. And until quite recently, even with the Cassini probe, we were only seeing these rings in the middle, called logically enough A to E, and then there's they found some more in between those, and I don't know what they're called, but that A to E is still fairly thing. But they've now found this great big ring, something like 8 million miles across, that is only visible in the infrared, and that's why it's taken until now to see it. They've pointed the Spitzer infrared space telescope towards Saturn, and were surprised to find this very low temperature, about minus 200 degrees, but nevertheless radiating heat back towards the Earth ring. It's also, the way they've showed this in the picture is accurate. It is inclined 27 degrees to the whole of the planet. Actually orbits, I think, further out than any of the moons. There's sort of Titan and Iapetus right within these new rings. This is the familiar Cassini view, but this is the sort of the graphic of the new ring of Saturn. So there are new rings of Saturn, hot off the press news out today. I was talking about planets. There's Mars. I took the other evening. Mars at this moment is being the 3rd twin of the 2 twins of Gemini, Castor and Pollux, the 2 brightest stars in Gemini there, and Mars joining them here. It's actually moving in that direction, so it will line up eventually. If you look in the evening sky, tonight, tomorrow night, or in fact that's not so time critical as being seeing Mercury and Saturn, but Jupiter is very bright in the constellation of Capricorn at the moment. And not far from Jupiter, which makes it quite easy to find, over here is Neptune. Now Neptune is pretty dim, and you will need at least a fairly bright pair of binoculars to see it. But it is easy to find if you travel sort of in that kind of northeasterly direction from Jupiter. You get there's a line of 3 5th magnitude stars there that kind of look like a satellite dish pointing back at Jupiter, if that makes sense. And Neptune is very close to them. It's quite easy to find. And likewise, Uranus is also visible in the evening sky, best around sort of 5 to midnight. And this is the bottom bit of the Great Square of Pegasus here. So if you find that, and you find this part of Pisces that is called the circlet down here, and carry on going, then it's actually quite easy to spot the sort of green tinged planet Uranus there. And what that means, if you think about it all, is that you can actually see, at the moment, you can see the sun, the moon, and all 8 planets in one 24-hour period, because they're all there in different parts of the sky, and I'm going to have a go at it myself. So that's the October sky. That's I think some great news items there, and a good time to be into astronomy. So that's me. Thank you very much. And,